As Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, we're in Washington, D.C. at the PACE Association Washington Summit. I have a chance to talk with one of the speakers, Rebekah Johnson, who is proprietor of Gloria-Mac Consulting. And Rebekah, you gave a talk today about how the industry can work on the call blocking issue that is affecting so many contact centers and is having an impact certainly on consumers. Why has this issue become so important in recent years? Certainly robocalling has certainly been one of the causes.
From the FCC's efforts through the Robocall strike force, they've put in protocols and procedures and technologies that are stopping the fraudulent callers. Unfortunately, legal, legitimate callers are getting caught up in this net. So obviously that's important to the entities who are delivering the calls because they're calling patients, consumers, members, and it's not just debt collection telemarketing calls. These are calls that consumers want to receive, and we need to make sure that they continue to receive those calls.
And you mentioned a practice that's been developed recently by the industry, shake and stir. It's a little new for me, and I'm learning. And maybe you could just take us through a little bit about how that works and how that benefits the industry and consumers.
So STIR represents the standards, and Shaken is the framework on which the standards will be deployed. And this is at the carrier level. So the call originators are not going to be involved in deploying this. It requires technologies to be upgraded to VoIP technology across the carriers. So a lot of efforts. It's going to take a long time. We're probably talking years. What this will achieve is an authentication and verification process. From my perspective, it doesn't necessarily block fraudulent callers, but it will give some certainty to the consumer that the entity calling them is in fact the entity that is showing up on their mobile device.
Very good. I know tomorrow you're going to be participating in a coalition meeting that's sponsored by PACE, Professional Association for Customer Engagement. Tell us a little bit about the objective of the meeting tomorrow.
So this is, I think we're making history tomorrow with regards to the entities who are showing up. We've got the carriers, the major carriers are showing up, along with the analytics companies and some third-party developers, all in the robocall labeling space. On the other side of the table, we're going to have PACE representation. Those are companies who are the call originators. And what we expect to come out from this is a bridge of communication between the call originators for the carriers and their companies to ensure that the legal calls are going to continue to be delivered, because it requires a cross-industry collaboration in order to do this. You can't keep this industry out of this. And I think the response from the carriers and analytics companies says they're willing to listen and they do want to cooperate with us.
And you mentioned some best practices that companies should be following so that they can make calls and differentiate themselves from those who are basically making illegal calls. What are some of the high points of best practices that contact center companies should follow?
Well, that's actually what we're trying to drive down to through this coalition, is that these analytics companies have, in a way, implemented what they believe the distinction between a fraudulent caller and a legal caller is, but they didn't communicate that to the call originators. So from this, we want to extract what those best practices should be, because this is something we've never looked at. Call originators have never had to worry about what happens to their calls on the networks. This is brand new line of thinking. So from this association, we will get those best practices that will be implemented going forward.
Rebekah Johnson of Gloria-Mac Consulting, great to see you, and a terrific set of presentations that you gave here at the PACE Association Summit.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and I'm excited to be here and solve this for this industry.
Absolutely great to see you. This is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services and in Washington, D.C.